See, if we as a house, if we as a church are truly going to serve the Lord, we have to understand what church leadership really looks like. And Jesus says right here, he says, look, even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve. He says, you know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them. And those in high positions act as tyrants over them. But it is not so among you. On the contrary, whoever wants to become great among you will be your servant. And whoever wants to be first among you will be a slave to all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. We get the idea in the culture that we live in that an organization exists to serve the person at the top. If you're the CEO, everybody has to switch their schedules to match yours. If you want the workday to start at 6 a.m. instead of 9 a.m., you're the CEO. You can do that. Everybody else has got to figure it out or go someplace else. If you're the parent in the family and you decide that you want to go to the beach for the weekend and the kids are like, but there's this birthday party I want to go to, you can be like, nope, this is what our family's going to do. This is what I want to have happen, so you got to follow me. But Jesus says that followers of God are called to a different kind of leadership. We are used to, in the culture that we live in, they were definitely used to in the culture that they lived in, for leaders to lord over those who were under them. They would exploit their influence. They would misuse their power and authority. And these were men who had been raised with that. That was the whole reason why they wanted Jesus to be this great political or military Messiah that would lead them away from that so that they could be free. But what they really wanted is they wanted to be the ones in charge. Instead of somebody else being the ones in charge, they wanted to be in charge. Joshua says, way back, as his people were getting ready to enter into a new chapter of life without him as the leader. Do whatever you want to do, but my house, my family, my people, we will serve the Lord. I find it so interesting. I said a minute ago that there's different ways we can look at the church, right? We can look at the church as a family. We can look at the church as an organization. We can look at the church as a community. And the truth is that it needs to be all of those things in order for us to be most successful. But what happens is many of us in our culture, we get caught on the organization side of it. We get caught in the structure side of it. We get caught in who's in charge, who has power, who has influence, who has authority. Now, let's be honest. In every group of people, there are influencers, right? Being an influencer is not a new thing. We may talk about a social media influencer being something else, but being an influencer is not a new thing. When I was in junior high, I had a pretty great junior high basketball team that I was on. And our 8th grade year, we were undefeated going into the postseason. And there were 2 kids on our team. One was Kent Johnson, and the other one was Rylan Dagg. And the 2 of them came up with this incredible idea. Now, this would have been 1989, late 80s, okay? And they said, we are all going to get matching haircuts for the postseason. All right, what are we going to do? We are going to get a stand-up spike on top. The sides are going to be shaved down close with lines cut in them. Just so y'all know, we were a bunch of white bread boys from Southern Illinois, okay? There was nothing cool about this look that was happening, okay? And then in the back, everybody had kind of long hair in the late 80s, and so we got a tight perm in the back. Okay? I'm telling you, we had spike up top, lines in the side, and tight perm in the back. I did not bring a picture. My mother has it, and for certain amounts of money, she will give it up to you, all right? Then she then turns around and uses that money to put into the kids' college fund. So I appreciate that when she does it. I want you to know, I don't think anybody else on the team thought it was a good idea. But everybody on the team did it. You know why? Because the influencers of the group said this is what we should do. And now looking back on it all these years later, it was just a haircut. It's something funny to laugh about. Not a big deal, didn't alter any course of our life, but it did show me from a very early age that we have the ability to influence and impact those around us. And even though we may not look back on it and go, that was a cool haircut, it was still kind of a cool thing when 12 kids walked into the gym of the state finals with matching haircuts. I'm not going to say it was intimidating, but it was interesting to say the least, that we all walked in looking like MC Hammer from the side and looking like 80s punk on top and looking like a French poodle from the back, okay? All right? We just made it all happen. I believe that God intends for us to be influencers. But there is a difference between somebody who influences and somebody who mandates. And a lot of us within the church, we look at positions of power or authority or leadership or whatever term you want to give to it as someone who has the right to mandate. See, there is a difference between being an influencer and being a gatekeeper. A gatekeeper is somebody who has the control of the gate, and nobody can get in or out without them being the one to open it up. An influencer is one who points people towards the gate and says, man, I think this is a place that you ought to go. I think this is a step that you ought to take. See, if we as a house, if we as a church are truly going to serve the Lord, we have to understand what church leadership really looks like. And Jesus says right here, he says, look, even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. See, those of us that are in church leadership, I don't care if we are lay elected positions or if we're pastoral type positions or whatever we might be in, paid staff. I want you to know we are not called to be served. We are called to serve. This morning was a perfect example. I came in this morning. We have several folks that are out this weekend because they're part of a very special event that's taking place just across the state line into Alabama. And so there's a bunch of people that are gone that normally would be doing things like tech and playing and doing other things. So a lot of people that are part of our normal 9:30 kind of lead team, they're out today. So because of that, I got a crash course in, not literally crash, but a crash course in running the lift that we use to help put everything up and down. And so several ladies from our setup crew showed up yesterday. Every single platform that was set up here for today was set up by a group of ladies in our church. And we got stuff set up and going, and it was so cool. And they asked, hey, everything's going to be, the other stuff will all be taken care of before tomorrow, right? You know, the chairs, the tables. I guess, yeah, absolutely. Yep, we got this. No problem. I came in early this morning. And I was the first person in the building, and I walked in, and there were no chairs set up. None. And because those tech people were gone, I had about an hour's worth of work I needed to do this morning to get everything ready for those 3 or 4 different people that would have been doing different things. Like, each one of them 15 minutes takes longer for one person to do it. So I'm in doing that. Like, I didn't have time to do it. So I messaged JD, our church operations director, and I messaged Pastor Allen. I said, hey, not sure what the plan was for setup this week, but is that going to be taken care of this morning? Are we all going to sit crisscross applesauce in the gym floor? Like, what's going to happen, right? And part of the reason I messaged is because JD was supposed to be gone this weekend. So JD messaged back. He said, hey, we're actually in town. I'll be there at 7:30. Pastor Allen said, I can be there before 7:30 to get things set up to go. So here are 2 leaders in our church that instead of saying, we'll call somebody else to figure it out, they said, we will be there. We will serve so that others have the opportunity to come in and find a place to sit and engage in worship. See, that's what we are called to be. We are called to be servant leaders. And that doesn't matter if I'm leading in a small group. Doesn't matter if I'm serving on a committee or a church council. It doesn't matter where it's at. If I am called to be a leader in my church, I am called to serve others. Now, God gives me the ability then to influence, but I'm not called to be a gatekeeper. I'm called to be an influencer for the kingdom. I find it so interesting that he uses some very clear language to speak to his disciples. The first thing he does, he reminds them of what the leaders of the day look like, right? You know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over one another, and those in high positions act as tyrants over them. But it can't be that way with you. Because if our world is going to recognize that something is different, it has to happen from the top down. Whoever wants to become great among you will be your servant. Whoever wants to be first among you will be a slave to all. He says, look, if you really want to make an impact, if you really want to make a difference in your church, this is what you have to do. If you really want to make a difference in your business, this is what you need to do. If you really want to make a difference in your family, this is what you need to do.